Dr. Danny Cooper was having a quiet morning at the Galactic Wildlife Preservation Station. He sat in the medical bay with a cup of coffee, reading through patient files on his data tablet. The station orbited a green and blue planet called Sanctuary 9, a world dedicated to protecting rare and dangerous creatures from across the galaxy. Danny had been working here for 6 months now, and he loved every minute of it. The piece ended when the emergency alarm blared through the corridors. The sound was sharp and urgent, making Danny set down his coffee immediately. Before he could stand up, the doors to the medical bay slid open with a hiss. Commander Kelth rushed inside, his tall reptilian frame moving faster than Danny had ever seen. The Vraxian scales were flashing between purple and red, colors that Danny had learned meant distress. Behind Kelth came 3 medics, 2 more Vraxians and 1 Chitara who looked like a large praying mantis with 4 arms. "We have a situation," Kelth announced, his voice tight with worry. "A Korthak hunter has been injured in Sector 7. It's trapped in the observation dome." Danny noticed how the 3 medics stayed close to the door, as if ready to run. Their body language screamed fear. The 2 Vraxian medics kept their distance from Kelth, and the Chitara's antennae were flat against her head. "A Korthak?" Danny asked, staying calm. He had heard of these creatures but never seen one. "What kind of injury are we dealing with? Broken bones? Deep cuts?" "A spear wound to the shoulder," said one of the Vraxian medics. Her name was Vess, and her voice shook when she spoke. "But Dr. Cooper, you need to understand what we're talking about here. Korthaks are apex predators from the death world of Korth 7th. They have killed more sentient beings than any other creature in the known galaxy." Danny stood up and walked to his supply cabinet. He began pulling out medical equipment and loading it into his field kit. "So has a house cat if you count mice as people," he said. "What's the plan for treatment?" The room went silent. Kelth's mandibles clicked together nervously. "Plan? Dr. Cooper, the plan is to wait. We will monitor the situation from a safe distance. Either the creature will heal itself or it will die. We cannot approach it." Danny stopped what he was doing and turned to face the commander. "That's not a plan," he said, his voice firm but not angry. "That's just letting an animal suffer. I'm going in to treat it." The 3 medics stared at Danny as if he had lost his mind. The Chitara made a high-pitched buzzing sound that Danny recognized as distress. "Dr. Cooper," she said, "this is not a domestic animal. This is a killing machine. It has teeth that can bite through metal. Its claws can cut through armor. One swipe and you would be dead." "I've worked with plenty of animals that could kill me," Danny replied, continuing to pack his kit. He added bandages, surgical tools, pain medication, and antibiotics. "Horses can kick hard enough to crush a skull. Bulls can gore you with their horns. Even a dog can tear out your throat if it's scared enough. But they don't do it because they're evil. They do it because they're afraid." Kelth's scales shifted to a confused yellow color. "You compare a Korthak to a horse?" "I compare it to an injured animal," Danny said. He closed his medical kit and picked it up. "Every living thing feels pain. Every living thing gets scared when it's hurt and cornered. That Korthak out there isn't thinking about killing. It's thinking about surviving." Vess stepped forward, her scales now bright orange with alarm. "Dr. Cooper, you don't understand. Korthaks are not like Earth animals. They are perfect predators. They have no fear. They show no mercy. The data files are clear. Over 300 documented attacks on sentient species. A 78% fatality rate. That's because people approach them wrong," Danny said. He walked toward the door, but Kelth blocked his path. "I cannot allow you to do this," the commander said. "You're too valuable to this station. If something happens to you, I will be responsible." Danny looked up at the tall alien. "Commander, I took an oath when I became a veterinarian. I swore to help animals in need no matter how dangerous they might be. That creature out there is in pain. It needs medical attention. I can provide that." "You will die," said the 3rd medic, a young Vraxian named Plex. "Korthaks have killed experienced hunters, trained soldiers, and even other apex predators. What makes you think you can survive?" "Because I'm not going to fight it," Danny explained. "I'm going to help it. There's a difference." He turned back to Kelth. "Look, I've read the files too. I know what these things can do, but I also know animal behavior. I grew up on a farm with animals that could kill me any day they wanted to. I learned how to read their body language, understand their stress signals, and know when to back off." Kelth's scales slowly shifted to a thoughtful blue. He had worked with humans before during the war with the Kryn Collective. He had seen them do impossible things, survive situations that would kill any other species. But he had never seen one deliberately walk toward certain death. "If I allow this," Kelth said slowly, "you will follow every safety protocol. You will wear a tracking device. You will carry a distress beacon. And if I tell you to retreat, you will retreat immediately. Agreed?" "Agreed," Danny said. The commander stepped aside. The three medics looked at each other in disbelief. "You're really letting him do this?" Vess asked. "Humans are insane," Kelth said, "but they are also remarkably good at not dying. We will see which trait wins today." He looked at Danny. "The observation dome is in Sector 7, Level 3. We will monitor you from the control room. Please try not to get eaten, Dr. Cooper. The paperwork would be terrible." Danny smiled. "I'll do my best, Commander." As they walked through the corridors toward Sector 7, Danny could feel the fear radiating from the medics who followed them. They whispered to each other in their own languages, probably betting on how long he would survive. Danny didn't mind. He had heard it all before. When they reached the control room overlooking the observation dome, Danny got his first look at the Korthak. The viewing window was made of reinforced transparent aluminum, strong enough to withstand a direct missile strike. Through it, he could see the creature clearly. It was massive, easily the size of an earth grizzly bear. 6 powerful legs supported its muscular body, each ending in curved claws that looked razor-sharp. Its scales were black as midnight with a faint purple sheen when the light hit them right. The head was broad and flat, with a maw full of crystalline teeth that caught the light like diamonds. 2 eyes glowed red in the dim light of the dome, and a long tail with spikes along its length lay curled around its body. The spear stuck out of its left shoulder, a crude wooden weapon with a metal tip. Blood had dried around the wound, dark purple against the black scales. "Beautiful," Danny whispered. Behind him, someone made a choking sound. "Beautiful?" Plex repeated. "That thing is a nightmare." Danny shook his head, studying the Korthak's posture. The creature was lying down, its body pressed against the far wall of the dome. Its ears, small and pointed, were flat against its skull. The tail was tucked close, not lashing. Its breathing was shallow and quick. "It's not aggressive," Danny said. "Look at the body language. Ears back, tail tucked, defensive posture. It's not preparing to attack. It's scared." "Impossible," Vess said. "Korthaks fear nothing." "Everything fears something," Danny replied. He picked up his medical kit. "Especially when it's hurt and trapped. Time to go make a new friend." Before anyone could argue further, Danny walked toward the airlock that led into the observation dome. The airlock door hissed shut behind Danny, sealing him inside the observation dome with the Korthak. The sound echoed in the large circular room, and Danny saw the creature's head snap toward him instantly. Those red eyes locked onto him with an intensity that would have frozen most people in their tracks. Danny stood still, letting the Korthak look at him. He kept his hands visible and his body relaxed. In the control room behind the reinforced window, he knew the alien medics were probably having a panic attack. He could imagine Kelth standing at the controls, one hand hovering over the emergency evacuation button. A low growl rumbled from the Korthak's chest. The sound was deep and primal, making the air itself vibrate. Danny felt it in his bones. It was the kind of sound that triggered every prey instinct a human had. Every part of his brain screamed at him to run. Danny ignored those instincts. He had learned long ago that running from a predator was the worst thing you could do. Running triggered the chase instinct. Instead, he took one slow, careful step forward. The growl got louder. The Korthak raised its head slightly, and Danny could see the muscles in its shoulders tense. But it didn't stand up. It didn't charge. That was important. "Hey there," Danny said softly. His voice was calm and gentle, the same tone he used with scared dogs and nervous horses. "I know you're having a bad day. That spear in your shoulder probably hurts like crazy." The Korthak's ears twitched at the sound of his voice. The growl continued but didn't increase. Danny took that as a good sign. He took another slow step forward, then stopped again. In the control room, Vess was speaking rapidly into a communicator. "All security teams to Sector 7. Prepare medical evacuation. The human is going to get killed." Kelth held up a hand to silence her. "Wait," he said. "Watch what he's doing." "What he's doing is suicide," Plex said, his scales pale with fear. But Kelth shook his head. "No, look at his movements. He's not acting like prey. He's not acting like a threat. He's doing something else." Inside the dome, Danny had stopped about 3 meters from the Korthak. This was the critical distance. Close enough to show he wasn't afraid, but far enough to give the creature space. He slowly lowered himself to the ground, sitting cross-legged on the cold floor. The Korthak's growl changed pitch, becoming more confused than threatening. Its head tilted slightly to one side, a gesture that looked almost curious. "Yeah, I'm sitting down," Danny said conversationally. "Makes me smaller, see? Less scary. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help." He reached slowly into his vest pocket, moving his hand at a glacial pace so the Korthak could see exactly what he was doing. His fingers closed around a protein bar, one of the high-calorie emergency rations he always carried. He pulled it out and held it up. "This is food," Danny said. "Or at least it's what humans call food. Not sure if you'll like it, but it's a peace offering." He unwrapped the bar, the crinkling sound loud in the quiet dome. The Korthak's nostrils flared, and Danny saw its nose working, processing the scent. Slowly, carefully, he tossed the bar so it landed on the floor between them. The Korthak stared at the protein bar. Then it looked at Danny, then back at the bar. Its tail uncurled slightly, and Danny noticed the spikes along it weren't raised. Another good sign. After what felt like an eternity, the Korthak extended its long neck. The movement was cautious, almost delicate for such a large creature. Its jaws opened, revealing rows of those crystalline teeth, and it snapped up the protein bar in one bite. The teeth made a pleasant chiming sound as they clicked together. Danny smiled. "Good, right? I mean, they taste like cardboard to me, but the nutritional value is solid." In the control room, the Chitara medic's antennae shot straight up. "It ate from his hand," she buzzed in disbelief. "It accepted food from him." "Not from his hand," Kelth corrected. He was smart. He threw the food, created distance, made the creature come to the food by choice, not force. "It's still insane," Vess muttered. But she couldn't look away from the window. Danny pulled out a second protein bar. This time he unwrapped it and tossed it closer to himself, about a meter away. The Korthak watched the bar land, then looked at Danny again. Those red eyes seemed to be calculating, thinking. "Come on," Danny said softly. "I know you want it. And I know you're hungry. Injured animals always are. The body needs energy to heal." The Korthak shifted its weight. One of its 6 legs moved forward, then another. It was slow, cautious movement, but it was moving toward him. Danny kept his breathing steady and his body language relaxed. The creature took another step, then another. It was now less than 2 meters away. This close, Danny could see the details. The scales weren't just black, but had intricate patterns like oil on water. The claws were indeed sharp, worn smooth by use. The eyes weren't just glowing red, but had flecks of orange and gold in them, like embers in a fire. The Korthak lowered its head and took the second protein bar. This time it didn't snap at the food. It picked it up almost gently and chewed slowly as if savoring it. "There we go," Danny said. "See, I'm not so bad." He pulled out a third bar but didn't throw it this time. Instead, he held it in his open palm, arm extended but not reaching. The offer was clear. If the Korthak wanted this one, it would have to come closer. The creature stared at the bar, then at Danny's face, then back at the bar. Danny could almost see the thought process happening. This was the moment of decision. Either the Korthak would trust him enough to approach, or it would retreat. Seconds passed. Then minutes. Danny's arm started to ache from holding it out, but he didn't move. Patience was everything in moments like this. Finally, the Korthak made a decision. It took a step forward, bringing it within arm's reach. Danny could feel the heat radiating from its body. He could smell it too, a mix of musk and something metallic like copper. The creature's breath was warm on his hand. Very slowly, the Korthak's jaws opened. Danny felt the gentle pressure as the teeth closed around the protein bar, carefully avoiding his fingers. The creature took the bar and stepped back, chewing thoughtfully. In the control room, nobody was talking. Every eye was fixed on the window. Kelth's scales had gone completely still, locked in a color between blue and purple that indicated intense focus. "He just hand-fed an apex predator," Plex whispered. "An apex predator." Danny pulled out another bar, and this time the Korthak approached without hesitation. As it took the food, Danny moved his other hand very slowly toward the creature's head. "I'm going to touch you now," he said quietly. "Just a little touch. Let me know if you don't like it." His fingers made contact with the scales on the Korthak's neck. They were warm and surprisingly smooth, like polished stone. The Korthak went very still, every muscle tensing. Danny froze too, his hand resting lightly on the creature's neck. They stayed like that for several heartbeats. Then slowly the Korthak relaxed. The tension flowed out of its muscles. It didn't pull away. Good, Danny breathed. Very good. You're being so brave. He moved his hand gently, stroking along the neck scales. The Korthak's eyes half closed and a new sound came from its throat. Not a growl this time, but something lower and more rhythmic. Almost like a purr, but deeper. Oh, you like that, don't you? Danny said, scratching gently behind where he guessed the ears were. Just a big scary kitty cat. He continued petting the Korthak while slowly moving closer to the wounded shoulder. The creature watched him but didn't pull away. Danny could see the wound now up close. The spear had gone deep and the tissue around it was swollen and hot to the touch. Infection was setting in. Okay, friend, Danny said. I need to look at that shoulder. It's going to hurt when I touch it, but I need to see how bad it is. He gently probed the area around the spear. The Korthak flinched and let out a small whine. A sound so pitiful it seemed impossible that it came from such a large predator, but it didn't snap at him. It didn't pull away. It just made that sad, hurt sound and looked at Danny with those burning eyes. I know, Danny said soothingly. I know it hurts, but we're going to fix it. I promise. In the control room, Kelth finally spoke. Call off the security teams. Tell them to stand down, sir. Fess asked, confused. He's not in danger, Kelth said, his voice full of wonder. Look at them. The human has made friends with it. That's impossible, the Chitara medic said. Korthaks don't make friends. They don't bond. They don't trust. Then explain what we're watching, Kelth said. Nobody could. They just stared as Danny Cooper, a human veterinarian from a death world called Earth, sat in an observation dome petting an apex predator like it was an injured puppy. Danny sat beside the Korthak for another 20 minutes, just letting the creature get used to his presence. He kept up a steady stream of quiet conversation, talking about nothing important. He told the Korthak about his childhood on the farm, about the time a bull named Brutus had charged him, and he had to hide behind a tractor. He talked about his first dog, a mutt named Buddy who had been afraid of thunderstorms. The Korthak seemed to listen, its head tilted toward him. Maybe it understood the tone if not the words. Maybe it just liked the sound of a calm voice. Either way, it stayed close and let Danny continue touching its scales. Eventually, Danny knew he had to move forward with the actual treatment. The spear needed to come out and the wound needed to be cleaned and sealed. But that would hurt, and pain could break the fragile trust he had built. He opened his medical kit slowly, letting the Korthak see everything he did. Inside were various tools and medications, all carefully organized. Danny pulled out a syringe and a small bottle of local anesthetic. Okay, buddy, Danny said. This next part is tricky. I need to give you a shot. It's medicine that will make your shoulder go numb so you don't feel the pain when I take the spear out. The Korthak's eyes focused on the syringe. Its body tensed slightly. Of course it would. Every animal recognized sharp objects as threats. I know, Danny said. Needles are scary. But this is a good needle. It's going to help you. He drew the correct dosage into the syringe, calculating based on the creature's estimated weight. Too little and it wouldn't work. Too much and it could cause problems. He had studied Korthak physiology before coming to the station, reading every file available. Now he was grateful for that preparation. Danny placed his free hand on the Korthak's neck right where he had been petting it. I'm going to count to 3, he said. On 3, you're going to feel a little pinch. It'll be quick. Ready? 1, 2, 3. He slid the needle into the muscle near the wound on the count of 3. The Korthak jerked and let out a sharp hiss, its teeth baring in a reflexive snarl. For a moment, Danny thought he had pushed too far. Those jaws could close on him in a second, but the Korthak didn't bite. It just hissed and pulled back slightly, looking at Danny with what he could only describe as betrayal in its eyes. I know, Danny said quickly. I'm sorry. But it's done now. The worst part is over. He kept his hand on the creature's neck, maintaining that contact. After a tense moment, the Korthak relaxed again, though it watched Danny more carefully now. In the control room, Vess had been holding her breath. I thought it was going to kill him right there, she said. So did I, admitted Kelth. But look, it restrained itself. Even in pain, even startled, it chose not to attack him. Why? Asked Plex. What makes the human so special? He's not threatening it, Kelth said, thinking out loud. He's not trying to dominate it or show superiority. He's just helping. And somehow the Korthak understands that. Danny waited for the anesthetic to take effect. He tested the area around the wound gently, watching the Korthak's reactions. When he pressed on a spot that should have hurt and got no response, he knew the medicine was working. "All right," he said. "Time for the main event. This spear has to come out." He examined the weapon carefully. It had gone in at an angle, missing any vital organs but embedding itself deep in the muscle. The good news was that meant no major blood vessels were damaged. The bad news was that pulling it out would still cause trauma. Danny wrapped his hand around the spear shaft. "I'm going to pull this out now," he told the Korthak. "You're not going to feel sharp pain because of the medicine, but you'll feel pressure and pulling. Try not to move, okay?" He applied steady, even pressure, pulling the spear straight back along the angle it had entered. The weapon resisted at first, stuck in the tissue. Danny increased the pressure gradually, not jerking or yanking. Smooth and controlled, the spear began to slide free. Dark purple blood welled up from the wound, and the Korthak let out a low, mournful sound. Not quite a roar, not quite a whine, something in between. It was the sound of a creature in distress who didn't understand why this was happening. "Almost there," Danny said, his voice steady and calm despite his racing heart. "You're doing great. So brave." With a final pull, the spear came free. Danny tossed it aside immediately and pressed a sterile pad against the wound to control the bleeding. The Korthak's whole body shuddered, and it made that pitiful sound again, louder this time. In the control room, several of the observers looked away. "It sounds like a child crying," the Chitara medic said quietly. "Because it is frightened and in pain," Kelth said. Just as Dr. Cooper predicted. Danny kept pressure on the wound while reaching for his kit with his other hand. "I know it's scary," he murmured. "I know, but we're almost done. Just a little more and then you can rest." He pulled out a bottle of antiseptic solution and irrigation equipment. The wound needed to be cleaned before he could seal it. This part would sting despite the anesthetic, and he knew it. "This is going to feel weird," he warned. "Cold and wet, but it has to be done." He irrigated the wound thoroughly, flushing out any dirt or debris from the spear. The Korthak tensed but held still, trusting Danny even though every instinct probably told it to run. Purple blood mixed with the clear solution, running down its scales. Once the wound was clean, Danny applied antibiotic gel directly into the injury. Then came the tricky part. The wound was too deep to just bandage. It needed to be closed from the inside out. He pulled out a surgical stapler and bioadhesive. The stapler would hold the deep tissue together while the adhesive sealed the surface. It was quick, efficient, and would hold even on a creature as active as a Korthak. "More pinching," Danny said. "But remember, you can't feel it because of the medicine." He worked quickly and precisely, stapling the deep tissue layers together. The Korthak flinched at each click of the stapler, hearing the sound even if it couldn't feel the pain. Danny kept up his soothing commentary the whole time, explaining what he was doing and why. Finally, he applied the bioadhesive to the surface wound. The gel hardened in seconds, forming a flexible, breathable seal that would protect the injury while it healed. "All done," Danny said, sitting back. His hands were covered in purple blood and his shirt had splashes of it too. But the wound was closed, clean, and sealed. "You did so good. I'm proud of you." The Korthak turned its massive head to look at its shoulder. It sniffed at the sealed wound, its nose working. Then, in a gesture that made everyone in the control room gasp, it turned back to Danny and gently pressed its head against his chest. The weight was substantial, and Danny had to brace himself to avoid being knocked over. But he wrapped his arms around the creature's head and scratched behind its ears. "You're welcome," he said softly. They sat like that for several minutes. Danny could hear the Korthak's breathing, deep and steady now that the pain was managed. He could feel the warmth of its body and the slight vibration of that purring sound it made. Eventually, Danny knew he needed to give the creature space to rest. He also needed to give it antibiotics and pain medication that would last beyond the local anesthetic. "I need to give you one more shot," Danny said. "Medicine to fight infection and help with the pain. I promise this is the last needle." The Korthak pulled back and looked at him. Those red eyes studied his face for a long moment. Then incredibly, the creature turned its body slightly, exposing its flank in a clear gesture of trust. Danny prepared the injection quickly. A combination antibiotic and analgesic that would last for several days. He administered it in the creature's hip, where there was plenty of muscle tissue. The Korthak barely flinched this time. "Good," Danny said. "Now you need to rest." Let your body heal. The medicine will make you sleepy, so don't fight it. He stood up slowly, careful not to make any sudden movements. The Korthak watched him but didn't try to follow. Danny backed toward the airlock, keeping his eyes on the creature. I'll come back tomorrow to check on you, Danny promised. Be good. As he reached the airlock door, the Korthak let out a soft sound. Not a growl or a roar, but something gentler, almost like a goodbye. Danny smiled and stepped into the airlock. The door sealed behind him with a hiss. In the control room, the entire medical staff stood in stunned silence. They had just witnessed something that every piece of data said was impossible. A human had approached an apex predator, treated its wounds, and walked away unharmed. Kelth was the first to speak. Dr. Cooper, he said as Danny entered the control room. That was either the bravest or most foolish thing I have ever witnessed. Danny was washing the purple blood off his hands in a sink. Maybe a little of both, he admitted. But that animal needed help. I couldn't just leave it to suffer. How did you know it wouldn't kill you? Fess asked, her voice filled with genuine curiosity rather than criticism. Danny dried his hands and turned to face the group. I didn't know for sure, he said honestly, but I understood its body language. I knew it was more scared than aggressive. And I knew that most animals, when given the choice between violence and peace, will choose peace if they feel safe enough. Most animals are not Korthaks, Plex pointed out. No, Danny agreed, but all animals are still animals. They feel pain, fear, and confusion just like anything else. You just have to know how to read them. He looked through the window at the Korthak. The creature had curled up in the corner of the dome. Its tail wrapped around its body. Danny returned to the observation dome twice a day for the next 3 days. Each time, the Korthak greeted him differently than it had before. Gone was the fear and aggression. Now, when Danny entered through the airlock, the creature would lift its head and make a soft chirping sound, almost like it was happy to see him. On the first follow-up visit, Danny had brought more protein bars and fresh water. The Korthak had eaten eagerly, its appetite returning as the pain faded. Danny checked the wound carefully, pleased to see no signs of infection. The bioadhesive was holding perfectly, and the tissue underneath was healing well. You're a fast healer, Danny said, running his hands over the sealed wound. Must be nice. Humans take forever to heal from anything. The Korthak made that purring sound and leaned into his touch. Danny found himself smiling. This creature, which every database said was untreatable and impossibly dangerous, was acting like an overgrown cat. By the second day, the Korthak was walking around the dome again. It still favored the injured leg slightly, but the improvement was remarkable. Danny brought a ball with him this time, curious to see if the creature had any playful instincts. Want to try something fun? Danny asked, holding up the ball. It was made of tough rubber, designed for large predators. He rolled the ball across the floor. The Korthak's eyes tracked it immediately, pupils dilating. Then, moving faster than Danny had seen yet, it pounced on the ball with all 6 legs, pinning it to the ground. The creature looked up at Danny as if to say, I got it. Good catch, Danny laughed. Now bring it back. To his surprise, the Korthak picked up the ball gently in its jaws and carried it back to him, dropping it at his feet. Its tail wagged slightly, those spikes swaying. They played for nearly an hour. In the control room, a crowd had gathered to watch. Word had spread through the station about the human who had tamed a Korthak, and people were coming from all departments to see it for themselves. This changes everything we know about their behavior, said one of the xenobiologists, a Vraxian scientist named Tor. Every study says Korthaks are solitary, aggressive, and impossible to socialize. Every study was done from a distance, Kelth observed, by researchers who were afraid to get close. Dr. Cooper proved that our data was incomplete. On the 3rd day, Danny brought different food. He had researched Korthak dietary needs and prepared a raw meat mixture with added vitamins and minerals. The creature devoured it, clearly preferring it to protein bars. Yeah, I figured you were a carnivore, Danny said, watching it eat. Those teeth aren't made for vegetables. After the Korthak finished eating, Danny performed a final examination. The wound had healed remarkably well. The staples could come out soon, and the bioadhesive would dissolve on its own within a week. The creature would have a scar, but it would be fully functional. You're good to go, Danny announced. Tomorrow we'll move you back to your habitat. How does that sound? The Korthak tilted its head, and Danny could swear it looked disappointed. I'll visit you there, Danny promised. This doesn't have to be goodbye forever. That evening, Danny was in his quarters writing his medical report when Commander Kelth came to visit. The Vraxian looked thoughtful, his scales a contemplative blue. "Dr. Cooper," Kelth said, "I need to discuss something with you. May I come in?" "Of course," Danny said, gesturing to a chair. His quarters were small but comfortable, decorated with pictures of Earth animals and his family farm. Kelth sat down carefully. Vraxians were taller than humans, and their tail made sitting in human furniture awkward. "I have been contacted by the Galactic Xenobiological Council," he said. "They heard about what you did with the Korthak. They want to know how you did it." "I just treated it like any other patient," Danny said with a shrug. "Applied basic veterinary medicine and animal behavior knowledge." "But that is exactly the point," Kelth said, leaning forward. "No other species in the galaxy treats dangerous predators this way. We study them from a distance. We observe them through cameras and drones. We classify them and catalog them, but we do not interact with them directly." "Why not?" Danny asked. "How can you truly understand an animal without getting close to it?" "Because we fear them," Kelth said simply. "Most species in the galaxy evolved as prey animals or scavengers. Humans are one of the few apex predators that achieved space travel. You understand these creatures because you are like them. You grew up competing with them for resources on your world." Danny thought about that. He had never really considered it from that perspective. "I guess that's true," he said. "Earth has a lot of large predators. Bears, big cats, sharks, crocodiles. We learned to coexist with them." "More than coexist," Kelth said. "You domesticated them. You turned wolves into dogs. You ride horses that could kill you with a kick. You keep snakes and lizards as companions. No other species does this. To us, it seems insane." "It's not insane," Danny said. "It's just understanding. Every animal has needs and fears. If you meet those needs and respect those fears, you can build trust." Kelth's scales shifted to purple, the color of deep thought. "The Xenobiological Council wants to hire you as a consultant. They have many cases of creatures deemed too dangerous to approach, animals that are suffering because no one dares get close enough to help them." "How many cases?" Danny asked. "Hundreds," Kelth said. "Across dozens of worlds. Some are injured like your Korthak. Others are sick or trapped. A few are endangered species that we cannot study properly because of their aggressive nature. We have been letting them die rather than risk approaching them." Danny felt a surge of anger. "That's not right. These are living beings. They deserve medical care regardless of how dangerous they are." "I agree," Kelth said, "which is why I recommended you for the position. But I must warn you, it will be dangerous. Not every creature will respond to you as the Korthak did. Some may attack regardless of your intentions." "I know," Danny said, "but that's the job. Every veterinarian accepts that risk when they choose this career. Animals can't tell us what's wrong. They can't understand that we're trying to help. Sometimes they lash out because they're scared or in pain. It's part of the work." Kelth stood up, his full height making him tower over Danny even when the human was standing. "Then you accept the position?" "I do," Danny said without hesitation. "When do I start?" "Tomorrow," Kelth said. "After we release the Korthak. There is a transport waiting to take you to the medical research station on Sanctuary 4. They have a case there that requires immediate attention." "What kind of case?" Danny asked. "A creature called a Rendax. It is a flying predator from a high-gravity world. One specimen in captivity has developed a respiratory infection. Every medic who has tried to approach it has been driven away. One was badly injured. They are considering euthanasia." "Not on my watch," Danny said firmly. "I'll save that animal." Kelth's mandibles clicked, and what Danny had learned was a Vraxian smile. "I believe you will, Dr. Cooper. I believe you will." The next morning, Danny stood in the observation dome one last time. The Korthak paced near the door that would open to its habitat, clearly excited to be going home. But it kept looking back at Danny as if checking that he was still there. "You ready?" Danny asked. Time to go back to the forest. The habitat beyond the dome was massive, a carefully maintained section of Korth's 7th environment with proper prey animals, vegetation, and climate. The Korthak would have plenty of space to roam and hunt. Danny walked to the control panel and pressed the release button. The large door slid open, revealing the green forest beyond. Fresh air rushed in, carrying the sense of growing things and distant water. The Korthak bounded forward, clearly eager to be free. But after just a few steps, it stopped. It turned around and looked at Danny. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then the creature did something unexpected. It walked back to Danny, pressed its head against his chest one more time, and made a low rumbling sound. Not a growl or a purr, but something else. Something that sounded almost like a thank you. Danny scratched behind its ears one final time. "You're welcome, buddy. Stay safe out there." The Korthak turned and ran into the forest, its 6 legs carrying it swiftly through the undergrowth. Within seconds, it had disappeared into the green shadows. Danny stood at the entrance for a moment longer, watching the place where it had vanished. He felt good about what he had done. One life saved. One animal that would have died if everyone had followed the old rules. Behind him, Vess approached quietly. The Vraxian medic had been watching from the control room. "Dr. Cooper," she said, "I owe you an apology. I thought you were foolish. I thought you would die, but you proved me wrong." "No apology needed," Danny said. "You were following the protocols you were taught. I just follow different ones." "May I ask you something?" Vess said. "How did you know it would work? How did you know the Korthak wouldn't kill you?" Danny considered the question carefully. "I didn't know," he admitted. "Not for certain, but I knew the risk was worth taking. That animal was suffering and I had the skills to help. Sometimes you have to trust your training and your instincts even when you're scared." "Were you scared?" Vess asked. "In the dome with the Korthak?" "Terrified," Danny said with a smile. "My heart was full." 6 months after treating the Korthak, Danny had become something of a legend in the galactic medical community. The transport ship carrying him from one station to another was larger than the one he had arrived in, equipped with a full mobile veterinary clinic. He had treated 37 cases of supposedly untreatable predators, and his success rate was perfect. 37 animals saved. The Rendax with the respiratory infection had recovered fully after Danny had sedated it with a carefully calculated dose and provided treatment while it slept. A pack of Scaran hunters with parasitic infections had been dewormed and released. Even a massive Thrain deep-sea predator had accepted his help when it had become beached and dehydrated. Each case followed the same pattern. The alien medics would insist the creature was too dangerous. Danny would study its behavior. He would find the fear beneath the aggression. He would build trust slowly and carefully, and then he would provide the medical care the animal needed. Now he sat in the conference room of the Galactic Medical Research Center on the capital world of Vraxis, Prime. Around the table were representatives from 24 different species, all members of the Xenobiological Council. They had summoned him to discuss his methods and results. Commander Kelth sat beside Danny, having taken a position as his official liaison. The Vraxian had become something of a friend over the past months, and Danny appreciated having familiar face in the room. "Dr. Cooper," began Council Leader Senna, a tall Vraxian with deep purple scales, "your work has been remarkable. You have saved animals that we believed could not be saved. You have approached creatures that we thought could not be approached. We need to understand how you accomplish this." Danny shifted in his seat, uncomfortable with the attention. "It's not complicated," he said. "I just treat them like animals instead of monsters." "But they are monsters," objected a Chitara council member named Vrix. "These creatures have killed. They are responsible for deaths across multiple worlds. So are cars," Danny replied. "But we don't call cars evil. They're just dangerous when misused or misunderstood. Same with predators. They're not evil. They're animals following their instincts." A small, furry creature named Pip spoke up from the other end of the table. His species, the Lorians, were prey animals who still had strong fear responses. "But Dr. Cooper, surely you must feel fear when facing these predators. How do you function through that fear?" "I do feel fear," Danny said honestly. "Every time. But I was taught something important when I was learning to be a vet. My teacher had a saying. She said that courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is doing what needs to be done despite the fear." He leaned forward, looking around the table at all the different species represented there. "Every one of these creatures I've treated was suffering. They were in pain, scared, and alone. Yes, they were dangerous. Yes, they could have killed me. But they needed help, and I had the skills to provide it. How could I walk away from that?" Senna's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. "Your compassion is admirable, Dr. Cooper. But we must ask the practical question. Can your methods be taught to others? Can we train our medics to approach dangerous fauna the way you do?" Danny thought about that carefully. It was a question he had been considering himself. Some of it can be taught, he said slowly. Understanding body language, recognizing stress signals, building trust gradually. Those are all teachable skills. And the rest? Asked Kelth. The rest is about mindset, Danny said. Humans grew up with predators. We evolved alongside them. We learned to see them as competitors rather than just threats. Most species here evolved as prey animals or scavengers. You're hardwired to run from predators, not approach them. So you are saying only humans can do this work? Fricks asked, sounding disappointed. No, Danny said firmly. I'm saying it will be harder for other species, but not impossible. I've been working with some of your medics. Vess, who works at the preservation station, has been learning. She approached an injured Korthak last month with my guidance. She was terrified, but she did it. The animal is healthy now because she overcame her fear. Senna made a note on her datapad. We would like to establish a training program. Would you be willing to teach other medics your methods? Absolutely, Danny said. That's what I want. I can't be everywhere at once. But if I can train 100 medics and they each train 100 more, we can help thousands of animals. The council members conferred among themselves in their various languages. Finally, Senna spoke again. We have a proposal for you, Dr. Cooper. We would like to establish the Interspecies Veterinary Medicine Program. You would lead the program as chief veterinarian. Your responsibilities would include training medics from across the galaxy in your methods. There's more, Kelth added, his scales shifting to an excited orange. The council has also allocated funding for mobile treatment facilities. Ships equipped with full veterinary clinics that can respond to emergencies on any world. Danny felt his heart race. This was bigger than he had imagined. You're serious? You want to create an entire program based on what I've been doing? We are very serious, Senna said. Your work has shown us how much we have failed these creatures. For centuries, we have let dangerous animals suffer and die rather than risk treating them. That ends now. With your help, we can change how the galaxy approaches wildlife medicine. Danny looked at Kelth, who gave him an encouraging nod. Then he looked back at the council. I accept, he said. But I have some conditions. Name them, Senna said. First, we prioritize the animals, always. No matter how dangerous, no matter how aggressive, if they need help, we help them. Second, we never euthanize out of fear. If an animal can be saved, we save it. Third, we share all our knowledge freely. No species gets excluded from the training. Senna's scales turned a warm yellow, a sign of approval. These conditions are acceptable. We agree to all of them. The next few hours were spent discussing logistics. Where would the training facility be located? How many ships would they have? What species would they focus on first? Danny contributed his thoughts, but mainly he listened as the council planned out the future of the program. When the meeting finally ended, Danny felt exhausted but excited. This was really happening. His work with one scared Korthak had sparked a revolution in how the galaxy treated dangerous fauna. Kelth walked with him back to his temporary quarters. You should be proud, the Vraxian said. You have accomplished something remarkable. I just treated some sick animals, Danny said with a shrug. No, Kelth said firmly. You changed minds. You challenged centuries of fear and prejudice. You showed us that what we thought was impossible was actually quite possible. That is far more important than treating sick animals. They stopped outside Danny's door. Can I tell you something? Kelth asked. Something I have not told anyone else? Of course, Danny said. When I first met you, when you insisted on treating the Korthak, I thought you were going to die. I was angry at myself for allowing it. I thought I was sending you to your death because I was too weak to stop you. Kelth's scales shifted to a vulnerable pale blue, but watching you work, seeing how you approached that creature with respect and compassion, it changed how I see the universe. I realized that we have been living in fear for so long that we forgot how to be brave. You're brave, Danny said. You let me try even though you thought I would fail. That takes courage, perhaps, Kelth said. But you taught me a new kind of courage. The courage to see past fear to the truth beneath. The Korthak was not a monster. It was just a hurt animal. All those creatures we feared were just animals. You saw that when none of us could, Danny smiled. My teacher back on Earth used to say that animals are honest. They don't lie or deceive. If they're aggressive, it's because they're scared or hurt or defending something. If you can figure out why they're acting that way, you can usually fix the problem. Simple wisdom, Kelth observed, but profound. Over the next year, the Interspecies Veterinary Medicine Program grew rapidly. Danny trained the first class of 50 medics from 30 different species. They learned animal behavior, stress recognition, trust-building techniques, and emergency medical procedures. Some students struggled with their natural fear responses, but all of them improved. Vess was part of that first class, and she excelled. By the end of the training, she was treating creatures that would have terrified her a year ago. She told Danny that he had given her a gift, the ability to see past her fear to the animal that needed help. The mobile treatment ships launched on schedule. They responded to emergencies across the galaxy, from volcanic worlds to ice planets. Injured predators that once would have been left to die now received prompt medical care. The program's success rate was impressive, hovering around 90%. Word spread through the galaxy. Humans, it turned out, had a special talent for dealing with dangerous animals. Other human veterinarians and animal behaviorists began joining the program. They brought their own experiences with Earth's predators, sharing stories of working with lions, bears, crocodiles, and sharks. The alien medics listened to these stories with a mix of horror and fascination. To them, Earth,